Apple versus Google, Pixel versus iPhone, but which one is really better? To find out, I used both of these devices, the iPhone 16 Pro and the Pixel 9 Pro, for 1 month, and I did a lot of comparisons, especially in the camera. So let's find out which one is better, and yes, there is a winner. Design is always a matter of taste, and to some extent I find both of these devices are relatively similar. They both have rounded corners, both have an angular frame, the thickness and weight are relatively similar. Both are the same size and they are both waterproof. The buttons are a bit different, and the iPhone has a matte scratch-resistant titanium frame, while the Pixel has a polished aluminum frame. The glass on the back is matte on both. The most noticeable difference is the camera element. I have to say that Apple's design is actually really poorly thought out. The glass of the lenses protrudes from a metal ring. Dirt and dust collects around it all the time. It's hard to get rid of. I don't know why Apple chose to stay with this design for 6 years now. The cameras on the Pixel are protected by a wide metal bar. It doesn't wobble on tables and it looks beautiful in my opinion. Maybe that's why rumors suggest that the next iPhone will look like the Pixel as well. Both of them are relatively easy to repair. The Pixel, however, is cheaper. I would therefore give the Pixel the slight advantage in design. Both the iPhone 16 Pro and Pixel 9 Pro come with a 6.3 and 6.9 inch display. Both have very thin bezels and they are symmetrical as well. Both do have 120 Hz, both have a very sharp display. The Pixel is a touch sharper, both are super bright, the Pixel is a touch brighter. The biggest difference is that the hole for the selfie camera on the Pixel is small and round, and on the iPhone it's very wide. That's because there is a 3D facial recognition system in there, Face ID. The Pixel also has a secure facial recognition, and in addition to that an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. So I would give the Pixel the edge here, but I do think that the displays are shockingly similar, so it's kind of a draw. First of all, both smartphones are super fast and smooth, pretty much the best you can get right now. But when you take a closer look, it's clear that the iPhone is twice as powerful, both in the CPU and GPU. And I have to say, that's quite drastic and very embarrassing for Google. But as I said, you don't notice that in day-to-day life. But when you're playing an intensive game, or when you're exporting a video, the iPhone will perform better. I think it's super weird that the poor performance is explained by a greater focus on artificial intelligence on Google's side. But when you use the image eraser, the iPhone does it offline and the Pixel doesn't need internet. It's also weird that the Pixel officially gets longer updates, 7 years of software and security updates with regular feature drops in between. With the iPhone, theoretically, it's only 5 years, and when I look at the 12 GB of RAM, I could imagine that not all Apple Intelligence features will come to the iPhone 16 Pro in the future. So Google somehow gets more out of their worst performance. Android or iOS? That's a debate that is very big, and some people give me the impression that they never want to change their operating system. They were born using iOS and they will die using iOS. And I think that's kind of dumb because let's face it, both of these operating systems are closer than ever. They are so similar, it's crazy. And most of the time, you are not spending time in the operating system, but inside of an app, and the apps are even closer. I personally do prefer Android because of the notification system. But I do like things about iOS as well. There is no clear winner. Back in the days, people used to switch every couple of years between operating systems, and I think that's a good thing for the consumer. It's easier than ever to switch, and I would say if you are using Android for 2 or 3 years now, switch to iOS. And if you've been using iOS, switch to Android and see what you like better. When you look at the battery size of both smartphones, you would think that the Pixel would last longer, but that is not the case. I really used both smartphones as my daily driver for about a month, and both of them got many software updates. And again, the iPhone 16 Pro Max lasted 15 to 20% longer than the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Either way, I can get through a whole day with both of them because I have typically 4 hours of screen on time and they last 6 to 8 hours. For the smaller devices, the iPhone 16 Pro and Pixel 9 Pro, the gap is a bit smaller because the Pixel's battery is relatively much larger. Nevertheless, the gap was still 5 to 10% depending on the usage. Especially when I was walking around in New York all day long, a few percentage points can make a huge difference on the end of the day. Both charge relatively similar in 30 minutes to 60%, that's nothing special. Even wireless charging is slow. Apple does have MagSafe and all the accessories to go with it. Since I have a Rhino Shield case on my Pixel, I have MagSafe safe as well. Both smartphones have 3 cameras. An ultra-wide-angle lens, both with 48 megapixel autofocus and macro mode, Google however with a larger sensor and a wider aperture. The main camera is extremely similar. The sensors are almost the same size, only with 2 megapixel difference. For the telephoto, both have an f2.8 aperture, but the sensor on the Pixel is way larger and 4 times sharper. Since software makes the picture at the end, let's jump right into the comparison. At first glance, it's very hard to tell which photo is taken by which phone. They are very close, both similarly sharp. The iPhone tends to smooth the sharpness a little bit, the Pixel tends to over-sharpen it a little bit. The Pixel tends to have more contrast, which makes the photos look a bit more crisp and vibrant. At night, this is very noticeable. I don't like how the iPhone pulls up the shadows. The saturation is identical for both. The white balance, on the other hand, is a bit too orange on the iPhone and a bit too magenta on the Pixel. That's why sunsets look better on the Pixel and a little bit more realistic in my opinion. But you can also see it in the skin tones. And you can see that both have a very similar bokeh thanks to the similar size and sensors. However, the close focus limit on the iPhone is very poor compared to the Pixel. So the iPhone has to switch to the ultra wide angle faster and that does not look good. The dynamic range is very high on both, but the Pixel is actually a touch higher. This seems to be due to the sensor itself, because when we look at the raw files, the Pixel actually has more details in the highlights and shadows and a more natural sharpness. This also explains why the 2x zoom on the Pixel looks a bit more detailed. Both ultra-wide-angle cameras look similar at first glance, but the corners of the image, especially when it gets darker, are way sharper and less noisy on the Pixel. You can clearly tell that they used a better sensor and have a wider aperture. The 5x telephoto is also very similar. The Pixel has a bit more dynamic range and a little bit more magenta. It looks definitely sharper. These are things that suit a telephoto camera, because we tend to photograph things that are farther away. At night, or when you zoom in more than 5 times, the Pixel is very clearly better. The sensor has 4 times the resolution and we can see that. Even selfies are better with the Pixel. They are more clear, they are wider angle, the skin tones look more natural. I don't like that brownish sepia filter on the iPhone. Both smartphones have the option to do the portrait mode in camera or when you have taken the picture already. I think the bokeh on the iPhone looks more natural. It looks more like a real camera, therefore I think it looks more aesthetic. Both have an image eraser now. You can erase people and objects from images. With the iPhone, this is only possible in regions where Apple Intelligence is already rolled out. I was able to test it and I think the result is okay, but the Pixel is actually better quality. You can also expand the image there. It's a bit slower, but it works. Also, the Pixel lets you take a group picture where everyone is in frame, a feature that I use more than I thought. Videos are also quite important. One of those cameras has a brighter shadows and one has more contrast. The more contrast one is the Pixel again. Although this is a disadvantage because sometimes you lose shadow detail and there is too much over sharpening going on, the Pixel sometimes looks more aesthetic because of it. Switching between lenses when filming is smoother on the iPhone. Furthermore, it can do 4K at 120 FPS, the Pixel can only do 60 FPS. The iPhone can record 3D videos for Apple Vision Pro, the Pixel can't. The iPhone can record ProRes and log, which generates huge amounts of data, but it looks higher quality, much closer to a real camera. So at the end, the Pixel's camera is a little bit better. It looks a little bit more spectacular, the pictures are a little bit more alive, and I do think that people will prefer that. Also, the raw files are a little bit more robust, but the iPhone does have its pros too. It can do 4K 120, does have the log ProRes video and the better portrait mode. So which of these cameras do you like better? It's kind of a thing of personal taste. Conclusion. I've been doing a comparison between the Pixel 9 and iPhone 16 and there it was very easy to find a winner. But here with the Pro models, they are so close, they are so freaking similar, it's crazy. But at the end, if we are really objective, the iPhone 16 Pro is the better device. The processor is twice as strong and the battery life is better, and there are some fine details that are better about this device. But I do prefer the Pixel 9 Pro because it is way more intelligent, because I think the camera is better and it is cheaper as well. 100 to 250 euros depending on the size and storage, which is already quite a big gap, but it will grow in time even bigger. So the Pixel is almost the same thing, but way cheaper. And so, when you're thinking about value, the Pixel wins. I hope this comparison was helpful to you all, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.